I now call the Snoqualmie City Council meeting to order. Allegiance. We have a number of students from Mount Si here tonight, and I'll ask Parker representing them to please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
I'll ask the city clerk.
Councilmember Jeans.
Here.
Councilmember Ross.
Here.
Councilmember Holloway.
Here.
Councilmember Mayhew.
Here.
Councilmember Lassay. Here. Councilmember Sundwall.
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
Mayor Larson.
I am here. At this time, I ask the council to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda tonight. Discussion. Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, I'd like to take off the warrants and AB 19-103, AB 19-110.
So basically all the agenda bills off.
The exception of the minutes.
Okay, there's everything but the minutes is now off the consent agenda.
Correct.
I would suggest that we move AB 19-105, the Wildcat Way discussion, to the top of that section, because these kids have homework. Oh, no, they don't.
Are you assigning some?
I'm sure Mr. Belcher can give them something to do tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. I was going to suggest the same, and also along those lines, so they can leave when they're done, to move Agenda Bill 107 and 108 to follow those. That way all the school district or school stuff is wrapped up in a bow. I'll just move that just before the consent agenda. If that's okay with the council, there's no objection. All right. Any other comments? Councilmember Shepherd?
I'd like to add to the committee of the whole a letter that was signed by a quorum of council members, and whether the constitutes a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay, I just need a second, and for lack of it, the motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, Councilor Sundwall, do you want to substitute do the substitute agenda bill on the?
Oh, yeah. Shoot, which one is that? That is, so it's this thing, right?
Go ahead.
Okay. So the agenda bill on
19106.
19106 was amended this morning, and we were all sent a copy of that amendment. And the amendments are essentially summarized in this document that were omitted accidentally from what was made public on Friday. I think they're pretty straightforward. They were discussed at the committee level, and they just didn't make it in to what was sent on Friday. I've already shamed the staff for omitting that, but it's of such an important nature that I don't think we should punt on this for another 2 weeks.
Second.
All right. If there's a motion to substitute the amended.
So I make a motion to substitute the amended agenda bill 19-106.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second, as stated by Councilmember Sundwall. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, motion is carried. All right, any other items for the agenda? All right, with that, with all the amendments as noted, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. With that, we move on to public hearings, presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And this month is National Recovery Month. So whereas mental and/or substance use disorders affect all communities nationwide, but with commitment and support, people with these disorders can achieve healthy lifestyles and lead rewarding lives in recovery. By seeking help, people who experience mental and/or substance use disorders can embark on a new path toward improved health and overall wellness. The focus of National Recovery Month is September is to celebrate their journey with the theme, Join the Recovery. Together we are stronger. Recovery Month spreads the message that behavioral health is essential to health and one's overall wellness, and that prevention works, treatment is effective, and people recover. Whereas the impact of mental and/or substance abuse disorders is apparent in our local community, and an estimated 400,000 people in King County are affected by these conditions. Through Recovery Month, people become more aware and able to recognize the signs of mental and substance use disorders, which can lead more people into needed treatment and recovery support services. The effects of these conditions can help people achieve healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. Whereas the Recovery Month observance continues to work to improve the lives of those affected by mental and/or substance use disorders by raising awareness and educating communities about the prevention and recovery resources that are available. For the above reasons, I am asking the citizens to join me in celebrating this September as National Recovery Month. Now, therefore, I, Matthew R. Larson, Mayor of the City of Snoqualmie, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2019 as National Recovery Month in the City of Snoqualmie. And with us tonight is Cindy Berg from the King County. Cindy, if you could come introduce yourself, and I think there's someone else you wanted to introduce as well.
Thank you. On behalf of people in recovery and those living in King County Behavioral Health and Recovery Division, and the citizens of Snoqualmie, we thank you for your leadership and support for mental health and substance abuse recovery, and for proclaiming September 2019 as National Recovery Month. I'm a little nervous, sorry, I've got a script though. We want to recognize people in recovery and our local agency partners who provide prevention, intervention, and treatment support to people and families who are seeking recovery from mental health and substance abuse. And Henriette is here from True Hope Community. Henriette, just if you have a few words or brief words, you're welcome to share a little. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you for having us and proclaiming September National Recovery Month is huge. At True Hope Community, we actually are a church and a community for families dealing with, whose family members are dealing with substance use and mental disorders, because families are oftentimes the ones that receive the least support. In fact, families oftentimes hide. And my son is almost 5 years in September, sober and clean, which is awesome. And we, instead of running away and closing that part of our lives, we have chosen to make sure that what we've learned can benefit someone else. So we're right here in your community. We have a lot of Snoqualmie residents as part of our community. We are at High Point, so we are here with you. We want to support the work you're doing, and because it takes everyone if we're going to remove the stigma and provide solutions for everyone dealing with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Henriette.
Thank you. Your recognition of Recovery Month is important as we join together to promote recovery and celebrate those in treatment and in recovery, and continue to educate our communities about how to overcome stigma and discrimination when it's related to mental health and substance use disorders. As we do this, we build a greater quality of life for ourselves, our families, our neighbors, and our community. And our community of the city or the town of Snoqualmie. And most of all, I want to thank you, Mayor Larson, and all of the honorable council members for acknowledging and celebrating Recovery Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Now, Cindy's requested a photo when receiving the proclamation, but I would personally attest that as one who has struggled with an immediate family member and some extended family members with this, I know that one of the biggest impediments, as you've spoken to, of seeking proper treatment is the stigma attached to that. So what I want to do is invite anybody out there that wants to sort of tackle that stigma to join us with the photo when I come up to give the proclamation. Anyone who's been personally struggled with these issues or has had family members that you've struggled with. So if we could.
Hang on, Joan, get one more. One more. Get.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry I'm not Sean's.
Oh, that's okay.
Cindy drove all the way down to Everett, from Everett tonight, so thank you for taking the time to come down. I'm not sure where Henriette drove down from, but.
I love this city. I love this little town.
Thank you. All right, so we have an agenda bill coming up later about this issue, but I want to invite the Mount Si students to come forward this time to do a presentation on the Wildcat Way proposal.
Hello. Thank you again for letting us and bringing us back up here. I guess before we're starting, I would like to introduce who we are and then also the people that came with us today. So I'm Shirag. I am a graduate from Mount Si High School.
Hi, I'm Parker. I will be a senior at Mount Si High School next year.
And maybe we can have our students that are here stand up, as well as anyone else that supported us, just so you guys can see all of our support. Wonderful. We love you guys. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so, oh, perfect. Perfect, thank you. Okay, and this presentation is a little bit modified from the last one you guys saw, so it has some new content. So remember, just bringing it up that we are talking about Meadowbrook Way from Railroad Avenue to Southeast Park Street. So why change? The reasons are the same as last time. So first, we want to celebrate the construction of the brand new high school. This was really, the entire valley came together to really make it happen, and it was built with their tax dollars, so there's no better way to celebrate it. The city can celebrate the community achievement of building this building. We can also embrace school spirit into the city and the city's infrastructure. And one of our biggest things is pride at the high school. It's like what we try to get all of our students to live by, and we think that if the city kind of exemplifies it, that's a wonderful way to do it. Show that the city cares for students and took their thoughts into their thinking and into their decisions. Also allowing visitors to easily identify how to get to the high school. There's been lots of changes in the last couple years with the building and the changes, so this would really help people know that on Wildcat Way is where they're parking in the main entrance. And also other Kinko schools have completed street changes, and based on like their mascots and where they are and who they are. So we think this is a great reason to change.
So our proposed change, it will be to be able to put up an honorary sign. The honorary sign will be Wildcat Way. The street will remain Meadowbrook Way, and the address and of the residents and the school will remain the same. And hopefully the sign colors will be our school colors to identify the difference between the street sign and the honorary sign that we would like to hang up.
This is our best photoshopping of what it would look like. So that is our number. So basically it would be implemented in 3 spots. So there's one at the bottom by the stop sign. There's one on the light, and there's another one on the light in the 3 spots. Oh, okay. And these are the couple designs that we had come up with, and the student's favorite is the top one, but we would be willing to go with whatever one that the city likes better. And if you have questions, feel free to ask throughout the presentation.
Hold back to that.
Oh, yes.
So you guys actually wanted the gray lettering? That
yes, the gray lettering, or if it could possibly be in white, that would be wonderful also.
Pop better.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you be opposed if John Belcher's picture replaced the paw?
Not at all.
Never, not at all.
Would that work? Okay.
Yeah, so then our cost for the signs, it'll be $600 per sign, bringing it to $1,800 for the whole thing. So then coming to who will pay for it, the Mount Si High School graduating class of 2019 was more than willing to bring the funds to be able to pay for the sign. And the signs will be made by the company that the city uses to make sure that we have efficiency and quality control.
So some of our teammates that were unable to come here due to one of them being in Alaska and one of them, their swim team, so they're swim captains, so they're at swim practice. So they went ahead and talked to all the residents that were like at home, and they left pamphlets and leaflets and contact information for the ones that were not there. And they talked about the changes, and some of the keynotes from the residents was that they wanted to keep Meadowbrook Street name still there, as well as keep the address because it had some historical meaning as well as sentimental meaning. And the implementation of the honorary sign is welcome and appreciated, and If you guys remember the last meeting, there were some outspoken voices against it, but now some of those outspoken voices are totally for this change now, so we're very excited about that. Yeah.
I know one of the council members was asking at committee about the number of houses within that red box you showed on the street. Did you
Yes.
make repeated visits to make sure you actually talked to everybody, or was it just leaving a note, or?
Yeah, so on the note, we provided our contact information, and we told them to please reach out if they had any questions or comments or concerns. We were unable to go a second time, but we could, I guess.
I mean, did you keep a running list of all the addresses and who you actually contacted, had some sort of contact with?
I think Emma might have one. I can see and get back to you.
There are 4 addresses listed where physical voice-to-voice contact was made, and those are noted in the agenda bill.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then when we'd like to have the change by, hopefully as soon as possible. We are starting our 2019-2020 school year here on September 4th, so pretty much a week away. Kind of hurts me a little bit, but we'll be okay. And also we have our community open house that will be showing off our new school, and that will be on September 7th. So hopefully we'll be able to get the sign up in that amount of time.
And this is some pictures of the new school to show how amazing and exciting it is and how proud we are. So we think the city should just join us in that and change the sign. Questions?
Amazing
Oh, yes.
and exciting for future students anyway.
Yes, totally. I guess I'm not really a part of that, but yes. So any questions? Maybe from, I'm not sure, do you take public questions now, or is it?
We certainly could. Council, any questions at this time? All right. Councilman Slade.
I guess this is probably a question for our stand-in city attorney tonight. Is there any implications for essentially a private entity to give funds to a public entity for this situation? What are we, what are we up against in terms of that?
Do you mean for donating the signs?
Yes.
It would be a donation. The city can accept donations.
Okay.
We can't give public funds, but we can receive gifts for public funds. Yeah. Councilmember Ross.
So I think this is a great idea. It reflects our community spirit and pride. And I have a question for Mr. Hoffman. Do you know how long it would take to get the signs? What's the general turnaround?
So my name is Dylan Gamble. I'm the new assistant planner here at the city of Snoqualmie, and I've been contacting and getting an estimate for that answer. And so from what I can get, the signs can be created pretty quickly. It's just a matter of narrowing down exactly the size that's needed and exactly what colors are going to be used and if there's going to be artwork encased into the sign. But for the most part, it's, from what I can tell, it's very fast and pretty quickly installed as well, within a few days once it's printed.
So will the signs be reviewed by Planning Commission?
The project has been reviewed by Planning Commission already and recommended.
Understood.
Sorry.
But we usually have signs, even businesses' signs, reviewed by Planning Commission for consistency.
These won't. This was Mark Hoffman, Community Development Director. The resolution recommending approval passed by the Planning Commission included the styles. The action is the honorary naming, and we left and to give a sense of what the sign styles would be and the colors so that nobody was shocked and could comment. But that's essentially an administrative decision because of the requirement to be uniform with our MUTCD street sign standards. So that'll be up to the Streets Division. Kevin Halbert.
Okay. There was no serif fonts and certain size of font. Yeah. All right. Oh, Councilmember Sunwell.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I want to congratulate Shrog. It is time to move on, by the way. I know it's hard to leave, but
No,
it is
Max
time.
is in Alaska. He was like, please come.
No, that's okay. I'm just giving you a hard time. So I just want to congratulate you two and Max and the others that were deeply involved in this. When this fell off of our plate in June, when we thought we'd seen the last of you, we just didn't expect this to come up in the summer. So I want to really congratulate the students who were involved in this and Mrs. Wascom for being supportive of this, and of course the students coming out to support this. I think it's an important lesson in civics. What I've learned is that most of what really matters happens at the local level. And so I think it's a really good exercise for you guys to be involved in the local politics. I would also say, I know the primary negative I've heard on this is Meadowbrook. The town of Meadowbrook has a great historical significance here, and I understand a little bit of that. I would also suggest that Mount Si High School has a historical significance here. My understanding is Mount Si High School has been an entity since the mid-40s. That's 75 years. And I think there's a way to honor both entities, both communities, I guess. And I think this is a good way to do it. Mr. Belcher had the unfortunate problem of running into me in the office. I think it was on Thursday or Friday of last week, and he just blurted out this idea that he would be supportive of naming the baseball field Meadowbrook Field. So I'm not going to make him come up here on camera and attest to that, but I would, as a salute to the town of Meadowbrook and the history that it has here, I would encourage the school to seriously consider having that. I think that'd be a very nice way to make that happen. And I'm not saying it's quid pro quo, but I think it would be a really cool thing to make that happen. So I just want to thank you guys for putting in the work on this.
Yes, and to add, Emma is the new student rep for the school board, and that was one of her ideas that really appeased the residents, and she was going to bring it up at the next board meeting when school gets started. So we hear you.
All right, there's no more questions. I'm sure there'll be a few more questions, but we'll come back during the agenda, Bill, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so at this time, we're going to move to citizens' comments. First, a few ground rules. First, Snoqualmie citizens who are not present have a right to have their elected officials and representatives perform their duties on behalf of the city in an efficient and orderly manner. Therefore, comments for those that did take time to come here tonight will be limited to 3 minutes each. Second, please wait to be recognized. Come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. 3, direct your comments to the council as a whole and not to individual members. In order to protect the privacy rights of employees and protect members of the public from legal liability, please note that this is not an appropriate venue to make complaints or accusations about an implied or named city employee or agent. Such oral comments will not be allowed but can be submitted in writing to the city clerk. 4th, please note that this is not a time to ask questions of the council, mayor, or staff, or to engage in debate. The council will quietly and respectfully listen to your concerns. And 5th, please respect the decorum of these proceedings, as all due respect will be afforded to you. And then lastly, since it's election season, I just want to remind any of those that are running for office to please refrain from any political campaigning or overt complete political campaigning in the chambers here, as it's a violation of RCW 42.17.8.555, basically using public resources for private campaign purposes. So with that, after that long-winded preface, is there anyone that wants to speak as long as I did? Oh, here we go. Michelle Drovedal and Irene, do you both want to come up at the same time with the Snoqualmie Library? Good to see you both. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm Michelle Drovedal. I'm the regional manager for the Snoqualmie Library, and with me is Irene Wickstrom. She is the librarian services manager, and we're here to inform you about what's going on at the Snoqualmie Library. And first I want to call your attention to the statistics. This is this little sheet that I put on your table. And for a small library, we have big numbers. We checked out 151,770 items. This is a little lower than last year, but our Snoqualmie patrons downloaded 55,014 items. So that is a huge total of 206,784 items. So while our physical circulation is going down, our downloads are skyrocketing. In fact, for the whole King County, it's gone up 2,147%. So we're doing very well. We've had close to 500,000 minutes of patron time on our computers, and we have a robust Wi-Fi for those who choose to bring their own devices. But circulation and computer time aren't the only things we do. Irene will tell you some of our programs.
One of our outreaches is Echo Glen Children's Center, where we provide quarterly programs to improve life skills. For example, we had a bike repair workshop, a poetry slam, and inspirational speakers to motivate the youth. Job literacy skills such as resume writing and Microsoft Office computer classes prepare the youth for life after incarceration. During the month of July, our staff goes to one of the elementary schools for their English language learner and summer school programs. The children's librarian tells a story and gives a free book to each child in the class. This program helps prevent kids slipping back on their reading scores. This is another example of how the library helps support literacy and ensures that the slip and slide stays only in the backyard. One of our favorite activities is marching in the Railroad Days Parade, where we get to wave to all our patrons, young and old, as Michelle and I carry the banner, followed by our Library to Go bookmobile. And every September, the library participates in the Snoqualmie Valley Block Party with the bookmobile and an informational table with fun activities. One of our latest outreach endeavors was our participation in the City of Snoqualmie's Winter Lights event, where we set up a table celebrating the many winter holidays from around the world. And our story times are well attended. Miss Jen is a popular and well-loved storyteller. We've had...
Oh, we're done.
We're done.
Just one sentence to wrap it up, if you
Okay.
could, Irene. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. As you can see, we have many programs, but our best thing is the staff. That we can come in and answer any questions, and come to me if you want a good book. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I'm sorry we had to cut you off. I have to be even with everybody. In the future, because you are speaking for the library district, if you contact Jody and request, a presentation or time to update for the council, we could provide a little more time for you. So it's not part of public comment. Yeah. But thank you both for taking time out. All right. And next, in a similar vein, Snoqualmie Valley Local Advocacy Team. Laura, Amy, who's gonna? Everybody. Okay. Come on up.
Hi. I'm Amy Biggs. I'm with the Mount Si Senior Center, and I'm the director for Snoqualmie Valley Transportation.
I'm Lisa Yeager with the Snow Valley Senior Center.
Laura Smith with the Snoqualmie Valley Community Network.
And Kristen Zaray with Trail Youth.
So first of all, on behalf of all of our organizations, we're here to thank you for your commitment to supporting safe, healthy, and thriving communities. We're here to tell you about the exciting work of the Snoqualmie Valley Local Advocacy Group. This team is a collaboration amongst human service providers who serve children, youth, families, and older adults throughout Snoqualmie Valley. The organizations involved in this effort are Eastside Baby Corner, Encompass, HopeLink, Mount Si Senior Center, Snoqualmie Valley Community Network, Snoqualmie Valley Food Bank, Snow Valley Senior Center, Sound Mental Health, Trail Youth, and Snoqualmie Valley Transportation. You'll be hearing from us more over the next year as we work to share stories about service needs in Snoqualmie Valley. We'll be encouraging all cities in the valley to take a look at their commitment to meeting the needs of human services, because healthy people make healthy communities.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You did that with a minute and a half to spare, so you didn't even need to request a. Awesome. All right. Charlene.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't realize that the Wildcat Way was going to be on the agenda, so I was going to presentation, so wherever you want me to speak.
Oh, you're speaking on behalf of that. Oh, okay. So when the agenda bill comes up, Charlene, you can come. Thank you. Rebecca Bastian.
Good evening, council, mayor, citizens. All right. All right, council, mayor, citizens of Snoqualmie, our surrounding neighbors, and to the north, south, east, and west of us, and to all the people watching on YouTube, go Nana, and especially to our youth who are actively involved in our city government. Tonight, I would like to thank all the city workers who work so hard to put on our Railroad Days. Job well done, everyone. Second of all, I'd like to say thank you to the fire department for putting on another fabulous pancake breakfast. The firemen and women and the volunteers who made it happen, and I thank you for your services on a daily basis. I love you very much. Including Phoebe, who I got to eat breakfast with. No, I didn't feed her, Mark. And thank you to Phoebe for putting smiles on so many faces. You are a blessing to our community, Phoebe. I would like to thank our police department for your services on a daily basis as well. It was great to mingle with some of you at the Railroad Days festivities. I love you too. I would also like to thank our merchants who work so hard to keep our local businesses thriving for all of us to enjoy. Thank you for all your hard work. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the Snoqualmie tribe for their wonderful works that they do in our community, and blessings to all. Thank you for
Becky,
your time.
thank you. I know your kind words are very much appreciated by all those folks. Thank you.
I love them all.
Okay.
They're all my people.
All right. William Donaldson.
William Donaldson, 803 Park Avenue Southeast. Today you face a dilemma involving a great sum of public funds, approximately $16 million, and the difficult decision of expanding our city's community center, which we have outgrown. That I think we
Point
can
of
be
order.
sure.
This is an item that's on the agenda, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
This is an item that's on the agenda.
I'm
gonna
not
give him a little
referencing the
latitude.
capital investment plan.
I'll
in
let it run a
particular,
little
so.
bit. I'm not sure if he's talking specifically about that or just projects in general. Continue.
At the present time, you are committed to a vast and aggressive investment into community center remodel when I feel that we have not, as a community, fully explored our options. Under the current plan, we would spend enormous public resources attempting to meet the future needs of this community with one ambitious investment. But, my friends, we do not have to do this alone. This is not a large city, and yet it seems we conduct spending as if it were. Snoqualmie Valley, however, with a population of over 40,000, is an economy that warrants expenditures such as these. I've heard it said by this administration that our residents aren't interested in funding infrastructure located in North Bend. And yet this government and this population do not seem opposed to sharing roads with our sister city, nor schools, festivals, or perhaps most notably, a jointly funded police force, for which our residents disproportionately fund. I'm proposing a more phasic approach to our needs. Presently, with the funds you've considered expending, we can begin expansion immediately. We're in dire need of more recreational space, more exercise equipment, and locker rooms. For our immediate aquatic needs, prioritizing the proposed spray park addition is a much more cost-effective, safer, and likely a more popular solution which does not require lifeguard supervision, regular maintenance, or an indoor facility. We already have a privately operated swimming pool option on Snoqualmie Ridge, and although it may have a paywall, that can henceforth be negotiated on behalf of our residents. Investing in another pool, as planned, would mean turning our backs on the swim team programs, which require regulation pools for competitions. That's infrastructure that our youth needs and is currently relying upon the city of Issaquah for. The Snoqualmie Valley School District has already shown support for Skyview Park's swimming pool expansion, and we can provide a larger regulation-sized pool for students at Mount Si High and throughout the valley by jointly investing in that option. We would then be free to break up the current community center proposal into phases, the last of which would include another community pool on Snoqualmie Ridge. This approach also allows more time and opportunity to secure grants, budget more conservatively, and include more thorough, comprehensive fiscal planning. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Is there anybody else that didn't get a chance to sign up that would like to speak at this time? All right, seeing no one else move forward, going once, twice, sold. All right, with that, we are going to move on. The council, I mentioned that I was going to do those other agenda bills before the consent agenda, but given that the consent agenda is the minutes, I think I'll just move those out of the way quickly. So Moving on to the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 12, 2019 roundtable and regular city council meeting?
So moved.
And approval of warrants, excuse me, as stated on the agenda packet.
No, warrants were pulled.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Just the minutes.
So moved to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second as stated. Any discussion, council? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, so we're going to move down to Agenda Bill 19105. Resolution 1513, inspired by the Associated Student Body effort at Mount Si High School, designating an honorary street name of Wildcat Way for Meadowbrook Way Southeast between State Route 202 and Southeast Park Street, while retaining the existing official street name and addressing.
On August 19, 2019, the Planning Commission approved Resolution 19-02, recommending the City Council approve granting a portion of Meadowbrook Way Southeast to be known as Wildcat Way. This designation is honorary only and does not change the official street name nor any mailing addresses along Meadowbrook Way Southeast. Move to approve Resolution 1513, inspired by the Associated Student Body effort at Mount Si High School, designating an honorary street name of Wildcat Way for Meadowbrook Way Southeast between State Route 202 and Southeast Park Street, while retaining the existing official street name and addressing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 1905 as stated by Councilmember Sunwall. So, excuse me, 19105 as stated by Councilmember Sunwall. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment? Charlene, go ahead. This is a good time. You have 2 minutes, Charlene.
I'm Charlene Lewalski. I live at 8818 Norman Avenue, Southeast, Snoqualmie. 5 years ago, the Wildcat Way was when I was first came aware that they wanted the honorary sign.
Charlene, could you pull the microphone toward you a little bit?
Sure, sorry. To me, if this is from my perspective, everything I'm going to say. If an honorary sign would somehow be detrimental to the community, to me it would be different. But to me, this honorary sign for on Meadowbrook Way is not going to be detrimental to the history. It is a commemorative honor to have that street named that way. However, the history of Meadowbrook is passed on from generation to generation and family to friends and to someone that is interested in the history of Snoqualmie, and they will research it and then they will talk about it. A Wildcat honorary sign will combine the old history and the new history of the school. And what the school system has been doing for this community. To me, it's not about the new building. It has been what has been happening in the school system. Can't we show support for that? The National Merit Scholars that come out of that school system, the winning debate teams, the cheer teams, the jazz band, just to name a few of the things that school system is doing for this community. Our school administrators, teachers, and students year after year have been striving to become better and better. And let's not forget how a good school system in a community encourages people to live here. We should be proud that our young adults want to tell the neighboring communities when they come here, hey, this is us. They aren't asking for anything that any town USA doesn't have. I don't think any of us are too old to remember a school rivalry. The young adults have been respectful in their request. I'm asking you to be the city council that shows these young adults that if you follow the proper protocol and you can respect the government and its procedures, the government can work for you. And if the decision the council is making is not detrimental to the community and its members that live within here. Jobs are plentiful in this area. Let's support these young kids. They're the biggest asset we have.
Sure. Thank you, Charlene. Did you want to submit your comments to Jody for the record?
Okay. So you want to take some of it out? You're fine.
All right, thank you, Charlene. Is there anybody else who would like to speak at this time? Mr. Manahan.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Rob Manahan, Superintendent of the Snoqualmie Valley School District. Just wanted to say a couple of things. Number one, kids these days, right? They're trouble. No, they're not. These kids are amazing advocates, and every day I'm impressed more and more with the way that they can work through the government system, can work through to advocate for what they believe to be the right thing to do, and I just want to give kudos to those students and for you for even taking up this resolution. Secondly, one thing with a community is that my belief is that great communities make great schools make great communities, and by you, even this sort of smaller recognition, I think, will help show that this community supports great schools and great schools do support this community. And lastly, as we walk through Mount Si High School, the new high school, which is a significant investment, obviously, from this community, what we see when you walk through and what these students are going to feel is they'll feel like they are respected. They'll feel like they are valued because of what this community has given them. They'll feel like they belong to a community that cares for them, that they are loved, and that they are capable of holding that jewel of a high school in the correct manner. And something even as what might some people say is insignificant as an honorary Wildcat Way sign, I think says the same thing. Students will see that sign, they'll say, this community cares about me, they respect me, they value me, and I belong to a community like that. And I think that's a great message to send our kids and to send our future kids as well. So thank you for considering that, and I hope that you'll approve such.
Thank you, Superintendent. Anybody else like to speak at this time? Yes, in the back. Can't see who that is. Oh.
Anna.
Anna.
Anna Sotelo, 7117 Almond Avenue Southeast. I was at the public hearing, and I know my comments are in there, but I just really want the whole council to hear how happy I am to hear that it's getting to this level. The public hearing was very good. I feel brave enough to speak for Wayne, who's not here, who is one of those people that probably had the full turnaround. And where he really got excited, after having conversations with him, he felt good about the fact, because at the public hearing it was discussed about the baseball field. And I think that the students expressed a little more during the public hearing about they didn't know a lot of the history of Meadowbrook, and I think that Mr. Belcher heard that, and I think that with the new school, this is a very exciting time to be introducing our history and getting that implemented with the new program. So I just think it's very exciting. One thing I do want to recommend, though, and kind of bouncing off Councilmember Lissay, is I feel that the different colors and signs are important for distinguishing it. I wouldn't like to see both green. I would like to see the Wildcat sign a different color, red, to distinctively tell that it is different. I know that some of the comments have been about the concern about the loss of the respect of Meadowbrook. So I think that the distinction of the two colors is very important for staff to consider. And other than that, I think that I'm just very, very, again, bouncing off of our superintendent, kids these days. And perhaps this has maybe opened their eyes more to the way procedures are, Robert's rules. Maybe that could be something else more going into government education. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak at this time on this topic? Okay, seeing no one move forward, we'll turn it over to council for deliberations, debate, questions. Okay. Councilman Lissay, then Councilman Holloway.
I'm going to say it this way. I want to congratulate all the students for being involved. It's very easy for you to go to school and just get through it. And I really want to say how impressed I am that this many students, when you don't have to go to class today or tomorrow or for another week, are here and went through their summer and spent the time to put this effort in. When it first came up, I'll be honest, I was not for this because I was very much a supporter of the history of Meadowbrook, and I challenge every single one of you to look into that. And if Mr. Belcher follows through, and I hope he does, that will be a portion of your curriculum as it pertains to your time at Mount Si High School, because the history of the Valley is very precious. It's different than a lot of places. But I think you stuck with it, and I think you showed a commitment to doing this right. You showed a commitment to following the rules, which I think is a really important lesson, because you went out and you reached out and you stuck to it. I would also encourage the sign to be, as Anna had said, to be read and be distinctive and be different. But I would want to make sure that you do retain that understanding of what Meadowbrook is and was and will be in the future. You have my support. I congratulate you on the work well done.
Councilor Holloway.
I think Bob and I were the ones here sitting last time we had a vote on Wildcat Way. Let me first say you'll get my vote tonight. I think the timing and location are correct. However, I'm not sure we fully addressed the criteria of honorary naming in the material attached. Again, part of the history of this, there was also a request to honorary sign this exact location as Veterans Way. I think geographically it's more appropriate to be Wildcat Way, but I'm not sure the criteria outlined gives that clear distinction to help us guide us and future councils. So to go along with the school thing, I give it a C+, but I think we can do better and do a B for the community moving forward. So I would like Parks and Public Works to take a look at that criteria listing under which is in here and maybe tighten that up a little bit. Right now, I'm uncomfortable with accepting 4 per year, which in essence comes as a first come, first served basis for honorary signing. And I don't think that it will well serve the community in the future. Okay, so got my vote tonight. I just want further work on that criterion process under which we do these things.
All right, any other comment or discussion, council? If there's no further discussion or comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe that's a unanimous vote. So, congratulations. I think you guys did a fantastic job this time. I refrained from engaging in the debate. I was here with, along with Councilmembers Jeans and Holloway 5 years ago too, and it was, I think it was a 4-3 vote if I remember, so it was a pretty tough discussion at that time. What you guys did really well this time was be really mindful of that Meadowbrook history. It was wonderful. Really fun to see those moments in politics where you find that art of compromise. And at the Planning Commission, when a number of the neighbors were here that were vociferous opponents of it last time, got on board this process to honor both names. Part of my background is a theology major, coming out of Catholicism as a 2,000-year-old history. So it was a while I realized that much of those studies involved doing so much to retain this massive amount of tradition and history and what sometimes can be baggage, and you forget to honor the living versus always living for the dead. And so, again, this is striking that great balance here between recognize that Meadowbrook Way and that history there is very important, but there is a very powerful and vibrant history connected to the high school and all you kids there, and particularly with this milestone in our community's history with this fantastic new high school. I think it's absolutely appropriate to take this action. I applaud the council, and I can't just say more than what the council members did about how impressed I am that you guys took days out of your summer, days like this, to make this happen for all your fellow students is just really impressive. So you should be very proud of yourselves. Bob?
Mayor, I just want to assure everyone that the staff will pull out all the stops to ensure, hopefully we can get this thing posted by September 7th, I believe is the date, the signs. So we'll work, put it as job one, frankly. So I know staff is eager as well as everybody else to get this thing done. So again, congratulations.
All right, on a bit of a related note, and since this is related to school stuff, you students might want to hang around for another 15 minutes or so here, and then you can head out and enjoy the rest of your evening if you like. We're going to move on to Agenda Bill 107, under Finance Administration, Resolution 1514, adopting the Snoqualmie Valley School District Capital Facilities Plan for 2019 to 2024.
The city and Snoqualmie Valley School District number 410 also have executed an interlocal agreement to implement school impact fees. The Snoqualmie Vicinity Comprehensive Plan provides that the annual update of the capital facilities plan be approved by the City Council by resolution. This resolution is the basis for the school impact fee, which will be set by ordinance. Move to adopt resolution number 1514, adopting the Snoqualmie Valley School District Capital Facilities Plan for 2019 to 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Agenda Bill 19107 as stated by Councilmember Mayhew. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? So just as so the students understand, the school district is required per the state requirements to lay out 6-year plan regarding all of the capitals, the improvements that need to happen in the school district over those years. And that has to be approved by the city because it's critical. We're the ones that collect impact fees related to all that capital improvements. And so the council has to approve that so we know how to set the impact fees that we collect and then turn over to the school district from the developers. So, Councilor Mayhew.
As the mayor said, this is a plan that's passed by the SVSD board. The city is indemnified by that by the school district for any shortfall in the plan, any issues that come up. Adoption by us of this plan is required to permit assessment of developer fees, as the mayor mentioned, and under our agreement with the school board or with the school district, we can only adopt this plan or return it. We cannot amend it according to our agreement.
Councilor Summel.
This might be a question for Ryan Stokes. I didn't see anything in the packet that talked about whether this is a change from previous years. They look like they're right about the same numbers, so I don't know if there was a change. These have gone up, nothing goes down.
Ryan, did you want to? Yeah, there's a little movement on the.
Hi, Ryan Stokes, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. The fee summary, the projects themselves in the plan haven't changed, primarily in a future elementary school. The impact fees then have a number of inputs that go into a calculation. One of the changes in that calculation that happens every year is the student generation rates, which we use Issaquah and Lake Washington student generation rates. So the multifamily student generation rates went up by about 35% this last year, and so the multifamily fees also went up. So the single family fee goes down by $535 from the 2018 rates, and the multifamily fee goes up by $1,700.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other questions, comments, council? All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, now we'll move on to back up under ordinances. Ordinance under Finance Administration Committee Agenda Bill 19108, ordinance updating the school impact fees pursuant to ordinance number 826 and Chapter 20.10 of the Snoqualmie Municipal Code. And this is only for introduction tonight, so if you could just read the summary statement.
Chapter 20.10 of the Snoqualmie Municipal Code establishes provisions for the assessment and collection of school impact fees pursuant to RCW Chapter 82.02. Chapter 20.10.100 requires that the fee schedule be reviewed and updated by the council on an annual basis after the council receives the district's plan and data required.
I need a second. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Again, this is for future action. However, is there any public comment prior to possible council future action on this item? Seeing no one move forward. Any questions, council, on this item? All right. With that, that'll be taken up for action at the next council meeting then. And it would not be impolite for most of the school folks related to school issues tonight if this time you wanted to go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evenings. Superintendent Manahan, I appreciate I appreciate you reciprocating. I went to your board meeting and now you came to my council.
I do this every other.
Go Cougs.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
See you, Coug? It's not Coug, is it? Oh.
They're everywhere.
I didn't think he was from Washington.
All right, I need to kind of pop back up to the top of the agenda now, and if I just want to look at, I assume the agenda bills that were pulled out of the consent agenda, 103, that's are both of these are F&A items?
No, that should be
I
community
think
development.
103 is community
103 are community development. Okay, if the chairs of those committees could help remind me when we get there to pick those up. All right, on ordinances, we'll start with Community Development Committee, Agenda Bill 19061, ordinance adopting Shoreline Master Program update. This was introduced on 6/10 and is ready for action tonight.
The city is required by state law to periodically update the Shoreline Master Program, with the next update due on June 30th, 2019. The city's existing SMP was adopted in 1971 and last updated in 1992. The city has attempted to update its SMP several times since 2000. However, no updated SMP has been adopted. This updated SMP incorporates language to address significant changes in state law and administrative rules over the past 20 years concerning shorelines and critical areas. Following the City Council's adoption of the SMP, the city is required to obtain Department of Ecology's approval. Because ecology approval is required, the city has limited flexibility in many of the revised standards. Staff has worked closely with ecology to develop the updated SMP. Move to adopt ordinance number.
I'm sorry. I don't have an ordinance number on this. Jody, can you find?
Next one, it's out of order.
Give us a second. 2014.
Adopting the Shoreline Master Program update. May I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 19061 as stated by Councilmember Mayhew. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? All right, seeing no one move forward. Any discussion, Council? Councilmember Mayhew.
I want to report to the council that the Community Development Committee, at your direction, if you recall, after this was introduced, it was sent back to committee to collect questions from council members and have those questions addressed. The Community Development Committee discussed with staff all matters raised to the committee by council members and attempted to obtain complete answers to them all. The questions, staff answers, and a summary of the committee discussion and conclusions are included on the issues matrix, which is in your materials and I suspect will be put up here in a bit. Our goal with this matrix was to share those responses and the discussion, and then to facilitate any remaining discussion that there may be around this topic.
All right. With that, is there any discussion or further questions, Council? Councilmember Shepherd?
So one of my concerns has to do with the buffers, and there's a lot of the term flexible as far as wanting to be able to manipulate what the buffers are going to be. My question is, when you want to overall maintain the integrity of the standard of whatever it is, 200-foot buffers, how is that accomplished?
Jason Rogers with the city's Community Development Department. In response to your question, Councilmember Shepherd, there's no hard and fast rule about how big the buffers need to be. There is a general guideline for how big they need to be. That's 200 feet. But
Jason, could you just clarify whether it's a state guideline, county guideline?
A state guideline. All the rules about shoreline master programs come from the State Department of Ecology, and so we are implementing the rules. And ecology gives local jurisdictions some flexibility in some of the standards. Buffers being one of them. The main thing we need to do is to maintain what's called no net loss of ecological function, and there's no easy way to put that in a box of saying, you can do, if you do 200 here, you can do 50 here. So it's not a one-to-one balancing act per se. It's an analysis of the city's entire shoreline area and the ecologic functions that different shoreline areas have, and what's more valuable and less valuable, and where the city needs to make improvements to maintain no net loss and even to improve it over time, versus areas where they're already highly developed, for example, or where the city is going to be providing for water-based industry or public access, as an example. So it's a very careful balancing act. We've worked hand in hand with the Department of Ecology this entire time to make sure we're implementing ecology's guidance appropriately.
So Jason, I can think of an example. I think the parcel across the street from the Gateway gas station had a small, low grade, not very valuable wetland that was kind of in the middle of the parcel that really made it difficult for the developer to develop that parcel when they were doing it. They requested that they be able to remove that in exchange for, or mitigation to be applied toward a high, helping restore or expand a high value wetland. That's the kind of rationale, the flexibility that the state's looking for to give communities, so you can actually, as you said, not not have just a no net loss, but actually a net gain in some high value areas. Is that what you're speaking about? To put a specific example on it?
Yes, that's a great example. Another great example would be the Tokal Roundabout project, where there was some wetland takes and wetland buffer takes involved with the Tokal Roundabout project, and we compensated for that over in the Three Forks area.
Yeah, and I imagine the council would be concerned about who makes that decision for some of those trade-offs. What triggers that? Is it administrative? Does it come back to council, or can you speak to that?
So at the master program level, which is what we're discussing here, that trade-off, if you will, is determined ultimately by the Department of Ecology. So then that's why I mentioned we city staff have been working closely with the State Department of Ecology, because they're the ones who have to approve this master program at the end of the day. And so if we propose something that the ecology didn't think would work, they would tell us that, and so that we could revise it before we got to a formal approval process. When it comes to individual project determinations, when you're talking about critical areas types issues that are in the shoreline, typically those are going to go through either a shoreline conditional use permit or a shoreline variance process. Those permits need to be reviewed and approved by the Department of Ecology. Those are also decided at the city level by the city's hearing examiner under this proposed master program, not by city staff or the council.
Councilmember Mayhew, and then
just other council members may be interested to know, to get a rough idea of the impact of 200-foot buffer in the downtown area. I drew the 200-foot barrier, or 200-foot line, yes, buffer. And it was shocking to me that would actually take out almost all the buildings in historic downtown. They would almost all be within the 200-foot buffer. So everything from River Street, just beyond River Street, going sort of north, would all of those buildings would be within the 200-foot barrier. I had an informal conversation with two tribal council members, who I won't name because it was an informal meeting. They weren't speaking for their council, and I certainly wasn't speaking for you or the city, just myself. Those two council members were very surprised to learn that what I just said was true. In fact, we were sitting in a building discussing it that was within the 200-foot barrier, and I said this building would be within that 200 feet. The reason I share that with you is I was concerned about the fact that this is one of the things that the tribe has brought up in their letter to us. So in the discussion, sort of two salient things came out. One is that perhaps there's room for more discussion to address the tribe's concerns, that maybe they might want to, maybe, they weren't committing for the tribe, but maybe they'd be interested in having further discussions around this. Maybe there are some trade-offs here for some other places where maybe the buffer would be increased, that could be fruitful, that could lead to something that both sides could be very happy with. To that end, I then discussed with staff whether, once we pass this, whether we can amend it. And the answer was yes, we can. So this is something that I think I'm hoping that we'll have further discussions on some level. We need to figure out how we would do that, but have further discussions with the tribe, because I think that some of the concerns they have, maybe there's room for other solutions that they may be happy with other than just what's in their letter. I don't purport to speak for them, but I'm just sharing that conversation with you.
Councilmember Shepherd.
So I've also talked to a couple of members of the Snoqualmie tribe, and they are concerned about the buffers. And I don't know what kind of conversation we've had. I thought we were going to have David Pater come visit us and talk to us before we voted on this. I thought there was some understanding that he would be here for us to be able to have a conversation, because he was involved with putting this together, representing the Department of Ecology. TMDL, temperature, I'm still concerned about the buffers are necessary in order to hopefully keep the water from getting warmer. And that's the purpose of why the buffers exist, and the health of the fish. So I'm really concerned that we really are not addressing that. We are making recreation a priority over the health of the wildlife and the river. And so I'd like to see us address that in our Shoreline Master Program. And of course, Bourse Lake, I'm really not happy with that being featured as something that we can put a boat into and have paths around the lake. I really think that's a huge miss by the city.
All right, any further discussion, Council? Councilmember Mayhew?
I may need some help. In response to some of these concerns, including the one that was just mentioned, there is two, I'll read it as two proposals to amend the Shoreline Master Plan that's been submitted to you. These changes were worked together between the committee and staff to try and address some of these concerns. So the first is, let me ask, have we handed this out?
That one was in the packet. We can put it up on the screen. I have a few extra copies if any council member would like a hard copy right now.
Why don't you just pass those out right now?
I've only got 5, unfortunately.
I don't need one. Go ahead.
I don't need one.
I have one from the previous meeting.
Are we able to put that up, or? Okay. So these changes that I'm moving are underlined, and for those of you that have this in color, the color of the font is red, so it's red and underlined. So I would move that we modify the SMP for these changes. If there's a second.
Second.
Motion and a second to modify as stated by Councilmember Mayhew. And now any further discussion will be just on this proposed modification. Councilmember Lassay.
Question for the chair of the committee. Are these changes any different than what was discussed in the committee, or were there follow-up revisions?
These are identical to what was discussed in the committee.
Okay, thank you.
There is another one coming forward that is slightly different, but these are identical to what was discussed in the committee. And these are, just to be sure I said this, these are to clarify regarding some of the questions that were brought up by council members, to try and clarify those matters in the SMP itself.
All right. Is there any further discussion or questions on the proposed modification as stated by Councilmember Mayhew? All right. See, Councilmember Shepherd.
So the other concern that I have besides the
do you have a concern specifically about this modification?
I have not read the whole modification, but I think that I'm seeing enough in here to, this is a basic concept, I don't know.
Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns about the modification? Councilmember Holloway.
On the first page, shoreline environment designations, you swap the order of urban conservancy with hydropower. What is the function of doing that swap?
The function. Oh.
Go ahead.
The function of doing this swap is in the text of the master program itself, where subsequent to what you see on that first page, it goes on to list every one of those shoreline environment designations. It goes urban riverfront, urban floodplain, and then in the text it does urban conservancy next, and then hydropower. So we swapped the list order to make it consistent.
Thank you.
Consistent with the order.
Just being consistent, I understand.
House clean.
As the chair of the committee noted, most of these are related to Bourse Lake, and you'll see some fairly consistent language throughout. There's one so it's getting to page 11 of this, there's a deletion of a policy that is not relevant anymore because the swing rock is not within the shoreline jurisdiction. So we'll delete that. And then the last two, and they have stars in front of them, or excuse me, the last one, which takes up the last 2.5 pages, is actually a change requested by the State Department of Ecology toward the end. This is a somewhat recent change in some essentially technical language regarding shoreline exemptions. And so this is a late addition. But that language was signed off by the Department of Ecology via email. And so unfortunately, that's why we had to add it very late in the game, but that's not the very last one.
Councilmember Shepherd.
So regarding this modification, they talk about the potential contamination due to historic operations of the Snoqualmie Mill. One of the things that we don't have access to this private property is the ability to check to see if there's any concerns about algae contamination. And in looking at just the aerial view of that lake from Google Maps, it really looks like it's got some strong potential for having algae contamination. So I think it's a health risk and potentially should be, if anything, we should put signs up if there's any contamination along those lines to prevent any kind of use of the lake. And honestly, I don't think that we should have any discussions regarding use of private property, but
Councilmember Ross.
I guess I find the language in, like the C under public access element, I think that the language in there addresses it. It states Boris Lake is potentially contaminated due to historic operations and so on. And so I think it's already addressed in there.
Councilmember Mayhew.
I will shortly be bringing an amendment to that very language to try and clarify that point.
Are there any other comments, questions on this amendment? Councilmember Holloway.
Just, and I agree with, you talked page 11 of taking Swing Rock out. I agree with your logic of taking it out. I guess my question, and maybe it's a homework assignment of where does it go? Because we did lose half that rock.
I think it's in the comp plan, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay. As long as we got that covered, I understand why it's not here. Okay.
Yeah, shoreline seems a weird, odd place to have that. Should be in the comp plan. All right, any other discussion or questions on the motion on the floor for the amendment? Councilman Lasay.
Just this is a housekeeping item, but in committee we reviewed, and the document that was just handed out is dated August 19th. However, the same document's not in the packet. I just want to make sure we get that. If this motion passes, we should make sure that this amended one is in the packet. The one that's in the packet is is a previous one from dated August 14th, and the one that's supposed to be the correct one is August 19th. So just a housekeeping.
Jody's nodding her head, says that'll get
Fix that. I will say the change is the addition of number 14, the shoreline permit exemptions. Everything before that is exactly the same.
All right, so if there's no further comments or questions on this motion to amend, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
no.
Councilmember Mayhew.
I'd like to further move that we amend the descriptions which appear in 1, 2, 3 spots, which I'll call to your attention, and the handout's being given to you now. At the request of the Community Development Committee, we wanted to look at the particular language around Boris Lake and the potential contamination there, and clarify or use what we thought was more clear language about what would need to happen in the future. And so this is, rather than the wording, well, I'll just read it to you. However, Boris Lake is potentially contaminated due to the historic operations of the Snoqualmie Mill, and what it used to say is caution should be exercised. This would change it to say, and further review is necessary prior to implementation of any future activities on or adjacent to the lake. This appears in section B, second paragraph, in section C, second paragraph, and in section D, in the fourth, well, there's an entire fourth paragraph added just to clarify this point regarding the recreational element, again, at Boris Lake. So what it's trying to do is make clear that further review would be necessary, and the SMP does already elsewhere describe what reviews are required.
So I second your amendment.
All right, motion and a second to, again, to add a second amendment to the Shoreline Master Program as stated by Councilmember Mayhew. Any discussion or questions on this, Council? Councilmember Say.
Just to clarify, I want to make sure that it's at 3 locations this occurs under the item B, economic development element, under item C, public access element, and item D, recreation element. So that it's not just in one location, it's in three locations.
Correct.
Okay, if there are no further questions or discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, motion is carried. Now back to the original motion. That's on the Shoreline, approving the Shoreline Master Program or Plan with the 2 amendments as approved. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nope.
Motion is carried. All right, congratulations, Jason. That's a
Thank you.
big accomplishment tonight. All right. All right, moving on to Finance Administration Committee, again, just under ordinances, Agenda Bill 19096, ordinance amending Snoqualmie Municipal Code, Section 2.04.010, relating to the Office of the City Clerk, amending Snoqualmie Municipal Code, Section 2.04.020, relating to the Office of the Finance Director, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. This was introduced on the 12th and is ready for action tonight. Summary statement's already been read in, so if you could just read the motion, please. Councilmember Holloway.
No. We'll let Councilmember Mayhew read
Oh,
this.
Councilmember Mayhew, okay.
Yes.
Is his surface broken or is his glasses broken? What's going on?
You can see a long way down.
It's these newfangled electronics. He's just not into
Passwords.
them.
Just this password thing. It keeps popping up every few minutes. It's 096, is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Snoqualmie Municipal Code, SMC Section 2.04.0.
The summary statement's already been read, and if you could just. read the
Thank you.
motion.
Move to adopt ordinance number
2015.
amending Snoqualmie Municipal Code, Section 2.04.010, relating to the Office of the City Clerk, amending Snoqualmie Municipal Code, Section 2.04.020, relating to the Office of the Finance Director, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance. I actually have the number 1217 here, which is,
We are doing them out of order. That might be why.
which one, 1217 or?
It's okay, 2015.
Okay, 2015 is stated by Councilmember Mayhew. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? Seeing no one move forward, Councilmember Mayhew.
As a reminder, fellow council members, 2 weeks ago, we took up a resolution to move much of the defining of job descriptions to the administration. In conjunction with that, this was a cleanup to take some of that job description language out of our municipal code so that all of the job descriptions would go through one path. So this is not changing the job descriptions, just removing the job description portion of the existing code out of the code.
All right. There's no further discussion on this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, moving on to Agenda Bill 19-1, I'm sorry, we already did 108. Moving on to reports. Parks and Public Works Committee, Agenda Bill, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're good.
That's right.
Parks and Public Works Committee, Agenda Bill 19-104, Resolution 1511, ratifying a 2-year extension of the Comprehensive Garbage, Recyclables, and Compostables Collection Agreement and providing for severability and an effective date.
City of Snoqualmie's Comprehensive Garbage, Recyclables, and Compostables Collection Agreement with Waste Management expired May 31st, 2019. The city would like to exercise its first of 3 2-year options to extend the contract. Move to adopt Resolution 1511, ratifying a 2-year extension of the Comprehensive Garbage, Recyclables, and Compostables Collection Agreement and providing for severability and an effective date.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 19104 as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to this item prior to action? Seeing no one move forward, any discussion? Councilmember Sunwell.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, the opportunity to exercise this option came up right around the time we were buried in 2 feet of snow. And fortunately, and that's why we're not seeing this until now. Is this out of order? Yes. But fortunately, we had enough eyeballs paying attention to this while the snow was falling that we sent the proper notice to Waste Management in time to not jeopardize the extension of that contract. As a side note, we did take the opportunity to talk with other cities to see if it actually would be a better time to negotiate. If you've been watching the news lately, you'll understand why that was a quick decision not to. And so we executed the agreement of this prior to the May 31st deadline, and we are seeing it now in part due to unforeseen circumstances. So I think the administration will acknowledge that this is not generally the order of how we like to do things, but given those extenuating circumstances, this is why we're seeing it so late after May 31st.
Councilmember Shepard and Councilmember Ross.
So we have quite a few residents who are really struggling with bears getting into their trash cans. And the opportunity to renegotiate being able to get better containers is when we renew this or extend this contract. I'm looking at the City of Sammamish and what their process was. They took 18 months in order to start their bid process, and they came up with 2 bids. One was with Republic and one was with Waste Management. They decided on the Republic vendor because for better pricing. I would like for us to be able to go back and actually do that bid again and find out if there's an opportunity for us to be able to have those bear cans that we don't have now. We have something that I think is called a nature can, but it is not effective, and the type of beer can that is more successful in keeping bears out is something that I believe is available through Republic. So I'd like to understand what it would cost us. The other thing about this is that I don't see a total cost of what this is going to, or value for this. I see that we have a budget of 0, but really there is a cost that's associated for our residents. And I think that it's reasonable for us to understand what we're approving. I was reading through the staff report, and it said that I guess the mayor has the ability to go ahead and extend this. So for reasons I don't understand why we're bringing it to council because of everything that's going on. But I would like to really have an opportunity to explore whether we can negotiate a contract where we can have better bear cans. We have a number of residents who do not have a garage. They can't put their trash cans inside a garage to prevent the trash cans from being torn apart. So that's why I am opposed to us approving this extension. I'd like to go back to the negotiating table. I'd like to put this out for bid.
All right, Ben. I don't think there's I would just say before Ben's comments, I don't think there's disagreements about wanting to explore some of those issues further, but there's some significant cost factors that I think are making this a pretty easy decision. So, Ben.
Good evening, Council. Ben Yazigi with Mini-Manage. Councilmember Shepard, to answer to your question, the city had a second amendment to this agreement on September 10, 2012. That particular agreement actually required Waste Management to provide the wildlife and bear-proof cans, carts, for citizens if should anybody make such request. So current contract provides that for citizens. There is, I understand, no such thing as bear-proof carts.
Better.
And we can work on that one with that, but I just want you to know that it's in your packet that amendment number 2 is specifically was for that one. In terms of, I think Councilmember Sunwal did a great job of explaining the circumstances. City of Snoqualmie Municipal Code, Section 2.9002, parentheses A, allows the mayor or his designee to extend the contracts that has the similar terms. And then the similar terms also identify in the subsection of that code as such that this particular contract fits into that. However, due to the unforeseen circumstances, the mayor would like to have, normally, to have the council ratify his contracts, but as the council member Sunwell mentioned that we were under heavy storm, unprecedented storm cleaning efforts. It was February 11th that was supposed to come before the Public Works Committee. That meeting was canceled, and subsequent to that, we had to send a notice. So I think my predecessor deserves credit that he had the foresight to send that notice, and then obviously the city administration deserves a lot of credit to making sure that we keep an eye on those things. In terms of renegotiating these contracts, having done this before, it takes time. We can't just do it on the moment to negotiate these contracts. I would urge council to consider this extension, and should you decide to go with a different route, then we come back and discuss that at a separate meeting.
Ben, I thought the most pressing data point that I thought kind of overwhelms everything else is the fact that with the recycling crisis, that China has basically rejected recyclables across the board, and that market has completely bottomed out, which means the waste management companies, whether it's Republic, Recology, Waste Management, or so forth, they are all getting bludgeoned from that, especially with existing contracts. So new contracts that are being renegotiated right now are going up in excess, as I understand, 15 to 20%.
Anywhere from 5 to 29% range.
Okay,
is
so
a huge range.
even over a 2-year period of what we're being asked to extend tonight on a 6-year contract, we're sitting in a pretty nice position right now.
Correct.
Our residents could experience anywhere from 10 or 5 or to 40% increases over 2 years cumulatively. So it's my understanding that if we start to open up the contract to renegotiate things, then it sort of opens the whole thing subject to price increases, and they'll be pushing hard to reclaim some losses on the recyclables. Is that?
That's excellent. Actually, we did check the cost increases of other cities just went out for new contracts, and John did that, our administrative assistant. We were able to confirm those cost increase numbers that we received from Waste Management. Not every city responded to our request, but the ones that we got response confirmed the numbers that the cost increases with the new contracts. And actually, the recent one that just went out, there was sticker shock because of what you just recently said, Mayor, and they were encouraging us to go and extend the contract.
All right, I'll go to just more staff response, and I'll come back to council.
I just want to quickly add that council may recall we had a person named Jeff Brown, a consultant, who no longer is in the business, but this is about a year ago, but he strongly encouraged us, because of those fluctuations in those recycling markets, to do the extension, wait and see what happens. Those things might be more moderate in 2 years' time, so we might have a better situation where we could actually look at the potential to negotiate some of those issues in the contract. But right now, he strongly encouraged us, given the fact that the price increases under our 2-year extension or subsequent 2-year extensions would be very, very small or very low compared to the other cities that are trying to renegotiate at this time.
Councilmember Mayhew, Councilmember Ross, and then back to Councilmember Shepherd.
So I just want to double back, because I think you had a slip of the tongue. I just want to clarify it so that people don't go back on the tape. You said, or what I heard you say, was that our current contract has been modified and Waste Management will provide bear-proof cans. Those are the words I thought you said, but I believe you meant to say bear-resistant cans?
Bear-resistant cans.
Wildlife-resistant, yeah.
Wildlife,
sure
thank you.
Wildlife.
Although I think they will put you on a resource that you can purchase your own bear-resistant cans. They're upwards of $400 a piece, but.
Okay, so just to be clear then, that what is it that under our current contract and under this extension, what is it that residents can receive, and how would they receive it with regards to either bear or wildlife resistant and bear or wildlife proof?
I believe that there's an additional monthly $2 extra charge for that one. They
For
just
which? $2 or $3 per month, yeah.
For bear resistant, wildlife resistant
yeah.
carts.
It's noted in the agreement, in item number 2, that it's wildlife, bear in parentheses, resistant cart.
It's amendment.
We test them in Councilmember Lasay's alleyway.
They have videos where they throw cans at bears.
That's true.
And this is on the second amendment that we did to Councilmember Mayhew.
Right, and then just to clarify on my question with bear-proof cans, the contract does not provide for that, but Mayor, if I'm understanding you correctly, citizens can contact Waste Management, and while it's a fairly hefty price, it sounds like they can obtain them at their own cost.
It doesn't prohibit from seeking one. And I think there's a couple of cans that they've approved. I pressed the, her name is slipping me right now. Oh,
Waste Management representative is here, so
there we
she's
go.
patiently sitting back.
Mystery solved. We were kind of wondering.
Good evening, Marcella Manabusan from Waste Management. And so, yes, we do have a wildlife-resistant container that we can provide for Snoqualmie residents. I don't know the exact fee, but it's additional $2 to $3, like you mentioned. And basically, the driver gets out and he has to, or she has to pinch the lid so that it'll open. And so that's.
And Marcel, I think there were a couple of vendors that did supply more robust bear-proof that actually open when they're, without the driver having to pinch it, or they.
There are other vendors. I believe my colleague Emily Newcomer did a presentation.
Emily I spoke to, yeah. So can you confirm as to whether what I stated was correct or not? Could a resident, if I said, hey, I want to, fine, I'll pay for it, I'll pay the whatever $100 it takes, will you guys say that's fine, we'll use that with our trucks?
We, right now, we're only providing the one that is approved for us.
Okay, so you don't have any bear-proof, more robust bear-proof type cans that you approve or would work with? So someone could buy them, but you wouldn't pick them up?
No, we just service the ones that we provide.
All right, well, that's an area we can press on more. It doesn't require a contract, I think, to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And being on the job only 3 weeks, you're doing excellent work, by the way.
Or Marcel, check with Emily on that, and if you guys could just shoot an email back to me to confirm whether she has that, because I got a different impression in my last conversation with her.
Does it take a different adapter on the truck or something like that?
I don't know, but I believe
For
that's
that.
what she was saying, that the driver has a particular tool that punches to open the.
It's called a thumb and a finger.
The issue for the waste company is they have to make modifications to the trucks.
Right, that's what I'm
To
saying.
do the automatic activation of that can and to have those cans in place. It's not an insignificant investment on their part.
Right.
At this stage, at the level of penetration we're at, their recommendation is these wildlife-resistant cans where the driver has to physically come and touch the can as action. We should have discussions about automated truck equipment to support this, but that's
Yeah, or find a
secondary to
bear-proof
this
can
discussion
that can
tonight.
work on their trucks. The dimensions of it will work with their truck or their requirements. Councilman Ross, continue.
So I think the extension is a good deal for our residents. I did go out and look at what other cities are paying to Waste Management, and ours is significantly lower than what others are paying. And I think we have a small increase each year, which is based on the CPI, but that's about it. So I'm for the 2-year extension.
You asked that question at the last meeting, so I just wanted to answer that. Yes, there's an annual adjustment per CPI.
Right.
But there is no cost increase just for the extending the contract. It will just simply carry the current terms of the contract.
CPI, right.
Councilman Shepherd.
So what is the value of this contract?
I don't have the waste, Councilmember Shepherd, in terms of impact the city budget, there is no financial impact.
So, but there's a cost overall, and when I'm looking at how Sammamish had done their bidding, there was generally a scenario of a certain amount of different services that were provided, and in order for them to be able to compare one to the other. I don't know how we're doing that. How are we measuring?
Ben, the only relevant cost to our citizens or the city is the monthly fee for the different, I don't know if you have rate chart.
Staff would be delighted to provide that to council members again. We've done that routinely. We'll get another rate chart out so you can see all the different pricings for the
Right.
different size of cards depending on what you want for service and the types of cards you want. We'll get that back to you because there's no one number that a resident could have. I could have a different size card for recycling and/or for garbage and/or for yard waste, and each resident has that option to select and choose the size they want. So their price is really based on the size of the cards that they're using for those various activities.
Yeah, it sounded like you were asking for what's the total value of the contract, whether it's
Right.
5 or 25 million. What I'm saying is,
How many-
that's entirely irrelevant. I mean, what matters at the end of the day is how that's interpreted into a monthly rate, and we compare the rates from community to community of what residents are actually paying, because it's a pass-through.
So as far as irrelevance,
Well, I'm not saying irrelevant, I mean, obviously it drives in the rate, but what concerns us is what is the rate the residents pay on a monthly basis?
I guess I am concerned about the total all-up number that, like they did with the city of Sammamish. I would like to get a sense of, a certain quantity per service, add that up, and get a total figure of how much.
Mayor?
And why would that matter in communities of different size?
We can get that for you. I think the important thing is that when we do the bidding for these types of things, the last time we did this, the company doesn't bid on a total contract price. They bid on the level of service for yard waste, for recycling, and for garbage. And they give us a price per container size.
Right.
That's how they price it out. And then we obviously take a total. We have no idea what the resident's going to select. So it's not based on the total value or total expenditure for that contract.
I will forward you what I've seen City of Sammamish doing. I think I'd like to see us follow that pattern of comparing costs.
Ben, have you ever seen anything about what the city of Sammamish does?
I think I was involved with that. I was part of the process, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what you're specifically referring to, Councilmember Shepherd. Are you referring to cities asking the company to pay the city's administrative cost, which we built that in Sammamish, partly because larger city, we had multiple providers, we were consolidating it, there were lots of customer complaints, and we had some dedicated staff time involved in that one. That's one issue. The other one issue is that if you're referring to total contract price, I don't have that in front of me for us, but we can get that number easily to you from the Waste Management.
Okay.
Councilmember Mayhew.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to double back because I believe you said something a minute ago, which I believe I also heard at committee, but I believe there are three extensions available to the city, 3 two-year extensions. This is an exercise of the first. Am I correct in understanding that the administration is going to be discussing with Waste Management this whole question of the extensions and bear-proof containers and what kind of, you're going to have discussions about what maybe could be done. And the reason I'm asking is I think there are interests from council members as well as the public about moving in that direction. Am I correct in my understanding that that's exactly what you're looking into?
Mayor, yes, we would. I've got a little bit more background in this than I care to know from previous experiences, but that would be the typical way to do this. We would obviously poll the council members. We would actually also talk to residents and talk to neighborhood groups, talk to the ROA, find out what the issues are so we can somehow put a synopsis together and saying, hey, here's the significant issues. And then we'll talk to council again and saying, hey, of these, do we want to explore any or all of those? Because you have to realize that each one of those has a significant impact when you negotiate. And so then we'll sit down with Waste Management and explore those options.
But to the point of tonight, we're just ratifying the 2-year extension that's already happened.
Yes.
What you're discussing is what you're going to do with respect to future potential extensions and this topic.
It'll be a little bit different than what we did last time because we primarily used the services of Jeff Brown, who knows the industry very well. And now he's no longer available, but he gave us some ideas about how we can go forth with this stuff. And I'm confident we can do it.
Councilmember Summo.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about in council, Jim, if you remember, is this idea that one of the concerns we have is while we have a great price for each of these extensions, there is some concern that, 6 years down the road, that the delta between what we have and what the new market value is so steep that we may want to have a conversation about renegotiating this ahead of the next 2-year cycle so that we can sort of, that might result in a cost increase, but we extend that for 4 to 6 to 8 years and sort of work through that at a lower rate than what we might, the huge cliff that we would see at the end of the full 6 years. So I think that's,
Correct. Yes, that's certainly one of the options you could explore. I also want to make sure I caution council, knowing that we don't know what's going to happen in a year or 2 or 3 in this industry. And things might go back to par like they were. The markets may recover. We might not, we might have issues with our trade deficit, so on and so forth. So the number of factors included here that are not just related to recycling markets. And I think we can give council a primer on that and talk more about some of those things and find another Jeff Brown if necessary who knows this stuff, who's an expert, and then we can discuss those issues. Because I don't know, I can't tell you what's going to happen in 2 years. And in fact, I knew of some experiences where cities have done that. Where they said, hey, we've got 2 more 2-year extensions, but much to what you had said, Councilor Sunwell, we perhaps could negotiate longer extensions with a little bit different price structure in there as an option. And we'll certainly take a look at those. We'll look at everything that's possible and available to us. We're in a very good position, though, as we sit right now.
Councilmember Shepherd.
So I'm not inclined to vote for this because we don't have any dollars to wrap this decision around. It's just it's a good deal kind of thing. I really need numbers and comparables, and there's nothing here.
All right. Are there any further questions or debate, council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on, Agenda Bill 19106, Resolution 1512, adopting the non-utility section of the City of Snoqualmie 2020 to 2025 Capital Improvement Plan.
This is 106.
Yes, sir. And this was the, I think, with the substitute.
All right, buckle up. The non-utility section of the 2020 to 2025 Capital Improvement CIP plan, broadly consistent with the 2019-2020 Council goals and objectives, guides the acquisition and improvement of transportation, parks, and facilities capital infrastructure over a 6-year period. This plan covers 27 capital projects or programs, including 6 capital projects carried forward from the previous CIP, 14 new capital projects, and 17 capital programs devoted to the preservation of currently built assets. This non-utility CIP is anticipated to cost the City of Snoqualmie nearly $49 million if fully implemented over the 2020 to 2025 period. To pay for planned expenditures, the city intends to use a mix of funding sources such as current cash balances, taxes, grants, and other increases. Given a concerted effort to apply sustainable financial planning principles, the non-utility section of the 2020-2025 CIP will concurrently invest in the preservation and enhancement of critical infrastructure and maintain the financial health of Snoqualmie. Move to approve Resolution 1512, adopting the non-utility section of the City of Snoqualmie 2020 to 2025 Capital Improvement Plan, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 19106 as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? See no one move forward. Councilmember Sunwell.
So this is largely unchanged. If you take a look at a couple of the things, to me, the 2 most important things are is thank you to Councilmember Ross. Remembering the trees. It's all about the trees. And remembering that we had neither accounted for the tree replacement projects in the operations budget, nor had we accounted for them in the non-utility CIP. So what we agreed to do is partially fund what had already sort of been approved, which was the Stellar Way tree replacement project, and then putting the larger street tree replacement program in red, so at least it's on the list. And I would expect, as we, one of the things we're trying to explore is, are there different revenue sources than our traditional non-utility CIP? Ben had demonstrated that in other communities, just an example, doesn't mean we're going to do it, but one of the things that other communities are doing on the east side is using stormwater revenues to help pay for some of those. There's some good data to suggest that that trees and even median strips and things that are absorbing a lot of this water means that there's less stormwater to account for. And so that is a means of dealing with stormwater. I don't think anybody was ready to completely tackle that as a funding source yet, which is why most of this appears in red. But I do think that is an opportunity for us to further explore, but at the same time fund the Stellar Street tree replacement program appurtenances, whatever. So we can keep that ball rolling on that. And so it's a TBD. It definitely needs to be in the project because that is something that we have several hundred trees that need to be replaced. And so I just wanted to comment on that. And the second thing was I just want to thank, I came in here on a Thursday or Friday a couple weeks ago to work with the city staff on maybe realigning some priorities on parks. Not that I expected a battle, but it was a playground fight. It was just super easy. So they have agreed that instead of 2023, by 2021, that the Riverview Park can be upgraded. And just for context, the reason it can't be 2020, I think we all would have, in fact, initially it was agreed to go to 2020, but after further discussion with Nicole, it was determined that based on its proximity to the shoreline, there were some additional projects that are going on there that would be conflicting and some additional issues around permitting that would be required to do that park the way we want to do that park, and that couldn't happen until 2021. So 2 years, moving it up 2 years. Credit goes to staff for making that happen, but that is the second kind of major of the minor amendments to what we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Thank you, Councilmember Sewell. Any other questions or comments, Council? Councilmember Shepherd, then Councilmember Mayhew.
So the $10 million that we have on here for the community center expansion project, I feel that it really belongs in with the projects that require grant funding, and it's not. So I think that it's in the wrong, it should be in the yellow section instead of the green section.
Councilmember Mayhew.
Yeah, I just wanted to question, I have in my notes about this that, so this is a plan for 2020 through 2025. 2019, the year we're in now, is not on this. That's because I believe we've approved all but one of the projects that were planned for 2019. I think the one that wasn't approved was a pole painting project, and I know that wouldn't go in this, so perhaps this is not germane to the question, but I had the idea that one of the reasons that project hadn't yet been approved was council was waiting to see the CIP, and so now that we have that, I guess have the expectation that the 2019 pole painting project is still going to come before us. Can I get maybe either tell me that's not germane or let me know if that is something that's going to be coming forward this year.
Gentlemen, Brian, Ben, Blaze, pole painting.
I was just talking to Blaze as the Councilmember Mayhew was asking a question, because I asked the Blaze to follow up with a couple of those manufacturers of the poles. Apparently we don't have just one design, we have multiple designs. So and then he was just telling me that it's come on up here.
Ben was hoping to order an extra pair, and then so that every time you redo this, you can just take down the one pair, put up the good ones, then go repair them. So so you can cycle through quickly. But the problem, so they wanted to back up and do a little more evaluation. So I'm not sure if they've completely come to an answer on the timeline for that yet, to see if there's better methodologies, not just on that particular intersection, but how we can approach them into the future.
So we can expect to hear more later this year?
Yes, we'll come back to you on that one, Councilmember Mayhew. What is the big chunk of the pole painting cost is that you have to have a traffic control while the painter's out there. You have a boom truck, so you got about labor cost is so enormous. So some cities come up with the solution that they just simply take the pole needs to be painted, put the new one, take it to shop, paint it, keep it as spare. When you need it next time, use that one.
Use it on another intersection.
Right, another intersection. So, Blaze, come in here. What are you hearing from the?
So I contacted the.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Yes, sir.
While I appreciate the explanation, I think it's probably best suited for a Parks and Public Works meeting, and as
Yeah,
it's not
all
relevant
from
to-
that. I think I'm letting it go down a rabbit trail.
Not
So
relevant to the agenda.
and I think Councilmember Mayhew had his question answered on that. So we will bring back more information. You can just tell they're doing some good research to find out the most efficient way.
Mayor, if I could add, though, I think it's important to answer the question is, when do we expect this to come back? And I think it's going to be at a future non-utility CIP. I don't think we're necessarily going to bring it back for this year, because of the timeline and getting the things done.
Well, at
Unless
least
we
for
got
this
a solution.
season, we might
Right.
get it back in 2020.
We can always modify or ask council to modify or amend this existing if they
Yeah.
approve it.
I think we already warned the risk that was to miss the 2019 good weather. Councilmember Sonoma?
So, Jim brings up a good point. I mean, this was something that the city tried to get us to adopt a handful of weeks ago, this particular pole painting thing. And I guess my only concern is we put it off in the name of getting this done first, but I don't see it anywhere on here. So I realize this is a living document and we can make changes. And I guess, just like with the tree things, we made an effort to get as much on here so there's fewer changes down the road. So I don't want to hold the CIP because I think this is 99% done and baked. But I'm just wondering if it's prudent that we add it now because we know it's going to happen within the next 2 years?
You certainly can, but I suggest that let us get some cost information. It could be that so low that we could maybe put this in operating budget. You don't need to put the huge chunk in the capital budget. Let us do a little bit research on that when we come back to your committee, Councilmember Sunwell. And
You mean
we'll
treat
address
it
that.
more as a maintenance item?
Right.
Potentially.
Okay, I can live with that.
All right. Any other questions or comments at this time, Council? Councilmember Shepherd?
Thank you. I've been asking
Oh,
that
I'm
question.
sorry. You're right. I did jump. Yeah, it was supposed to come to you before Councilmember Sunwell. My apologies.
Anyway, I was asking those questions, and I like the direction that the Public Works Department is taking on this. I'm really grateful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments, Council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So was that one no? I thought I heard maybe.
No.
Okay, two. All right. Did you get that? All right, thank you. Motion is approved. Sorry, trying to reorientate myself here. All right, moving on to Agenda Bill 19101, Resolution 1509, determining the lowest responsive bidder, rejecting the bid of SkyCorp Ltd., awarding a small works contract to Dedicated Deconstruction and Demolition LLC for the City of Snoqualmie 2019 residential deconstruction and demolition project, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Since 2017, the city has acquired 5 flood-prone riverfront parcels supported by grants and flood control district funding. Funding agreements require the city agrees to remove all structures from acquired parcels. The proposed agreement will utilize grant funding to secure salvage and demolition of acquired structures. Move to adopt Resolution 1509, demonstrating the lowest responsive bidder, rejecting the bid of SkyCorp Ltd., awarding a small works contract to Dedicated Destruction and Demolition LLC for the City of Snoqualmie 2019 residential destruction and demolition project, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 19101 as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? Seeing no one move forward, Councilmember Sunwell.
So just as a reminder, and staff correct me if I'm wrong, the lowest responsible bidder was determined to not be responsible. Anyway, they were
Not responsive.
Well, they were responsive. They just responded in a way that was, so basically, in a nutshell, they were proposing a way of disposing of materials and products from that demolition in a way that was not in keeping with kind of a green approach to that. So this other bidder, which has the best name ever, Dedicated Destruction and Demolition LLC. I mean, that is an amazing name. They are going to dispose of things in a much more responsible and environmentally sound way. And Nicole is just like, shut up, Sean, and let me just explain this better, pretty much right now.
She did say that exactly like that.
She would never say shut up, but that's what.
No, I thought that was a fine summary. The name of the business is Dedicated Deconstruction, so that means that they deconstruct the house for recycling, and Sean's summary was correct that the lowest bid offered in did not commit to structural salvage recycling, or basically pulling out the salvageable materials such as floor joists and beams and so forth. The Dedicated Deconstruction's bid provides for that service and basically sells them to salvage facilities for reuse, or donates them, actually, when I was checking on the contract. So that is the summary, and I can answer questions as desired.
Councilor Lissay.
I just want to make sure I understand a couple of things. It looks like, and you can just confirm by however you like, it's total of 5 lots that will have structures demolished and reconstructed and all the works?
The contract provides for 5 lots. These are the 2 houses next to Riverview Park, as well as the 3 houses along Southeast Park Street across from the high school. Unfortunately, we are having some issues with other grantor agencies allowing us to proceed with the 2 houses closest to Riverview. We are trying to work through that. If we can, then we will execute demolition and deconstruction of all the houses. If not, the contract provides for basically per unit pricing, so whatever houses they take down, that's what they get paid for. And if that happens along that route, we'll have to bring those houses back to you at a different time. But right now, that is the goal, is 5 lots.
Thank you for reading my mind on the follow-up question.
No problem.
Councilmember Holloway, Councilmember Ross.
So lowest bidder contacted me, was concerned that the bidder selected is not on the approved list for public work projects from the state. Has that concern been brought to you, and did you investigate that from?
You mean about dedicated deconstruction? Yes. That concern has not been brought to me. The bidders lists went out to the MSRC roster of bidders. So they are on that bidding roster, and to our knowledge, they fit the criteria to execute the contract. So I can do some additional.
Please do. They were very specific about the UBI indicator of the company, and that it was not on the state's approved list for public work contracts. Further, I guess, a legal question, if a bidder has issue, so I'm from an aerospace company yet that will not be named, and we challenge contract awards all the time. Well, not really, very seldom, sorry. But is there a process under which a bidder can challenge an award at the city level?
They can actually file a lawsuit against the city challenging the bid.
Okay, but it has to be a full-blown lawsuit activity, okay. The second concern I guess I'd like you to also investigate was the bidder felt they were responsive, but that there were additional requirements above and beyond that they were not advised of and felt they would have applied to. Now, I don't know how much it, I don't want to get into a he say, she say, whatever, but I want to relay the information that was brought forth to me. I would at a minimum like to validate that this is a valid contractor for public works contracts.
Right, right. So speaking to the latter first, what was I going to say to that?
Specifications he was referring to, the requirements.
Right, well, but for the UBI indicator number, so if we run into an issue saying that basically they can't execute a public works contract, I mean, we'll look into that, and if that's the case, we will not execute a contract with them if we cannot legally do so. So, and then we'll probably have to reissue the bid, and we'll come back to you at a future date. But we'd still want your approval here tonight. That way, basically, we have a certain amount of time under their bonds to execute a contract, so we'd like to secure the price that we have. And there was one other item that you brought up, but I'm just not remembering it at the second.
Can you bring that back to committee and Is it 2 weeks or 3 weeks at this stage?
We can certainly tell you if, there's an issue at committee after tonight's vetting.
The second issue was the specifications.
Right. So that was it was clearly stated in the scope that we expect structural salvage. The lowest bidder did not turn up for the site visit. They were not present, and they didn't approach us with any questions beforehand. So if they had issues with the contract, my opinion is that it's because they didn't properly review the contract.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I? Ben actually reminded me that they can actually file a bid protest first, and then they would file a lawsuit after that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Mayhew.
So I'm just trying to understand where we're at, because what I thought I heard was a question about whether the bidder that's been moved, that we award this contract to, there seemed to be a question about whether they were actually a qualified bidder, and we didn't seem to know the answer. Is that what I heard? Because if so, I'm uncomfortable voting for this.
It sounds to me, so my hearing is that the lowest bidder independently contacted a council member with concerns about the medium bidder.
Yeah, but that's not my question.
Right, but what they did was bring up information that I would need some time to verify if that's in fact an issue or if that's bringing up some sort of false allegation against the medium bidder, and in which case they would be interfering with the bid process in a way that I would feel is probably not ethically the best way to approach it. We have the ability at staff level, if we find that that is a legitimate issue, we will not bring the item then to complete the mayor's signature. However, at this time, we would want the council to vet this item because we need to approve it within a certain period for the bonds to hold.
What is that period?
I believe it ends in a week and a half. I don't know the exact date, right?
Mayor, if I could also help answer, and I'll ask the city attorney to chime in here, or at least to supplement this. If they were going to protest this, they should have done it in the normal course of business. They did not notify us in writing, and they need to do that. They need to expressly state those issues. And absent that, I think, we can certainly, obviously, they can certainly talk to anybody they like, but they have a normal channel they need to go through. They did not follow that. They have not followed that to this point in time.
Are we aware of any contacts to city staff other than a council member?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
No.
that itself sort of tells you there's a red flag in how they handled it.
Peace, they're out of channel, no argument. I just, having
they should know
had
that.
the issue brought to me, I just wanted to expose it and to remedy that issue and move on.
But if they genuinely thought there was an issue, they would have known the legal protocols and immediately would have brought notice to the city in appropriate channels. But
I don't know
otherwise, it
about-
seems we do risk playing
I
it.
don't know about that. That makes some assumptions on part of the party in question that I'm not qualified, not
Bottom
sure
line
you're
is
qualified to make assumptions on.
In approving it tonight, there is no harm that the council would,
I have no argument
There's
with
no harm, Jim,
I
if
have
we
no
were to
argument with
verify
approving it
the
tonight.
claim of
and-
that or not. I'm not going to sign anything until it's verified, this issue that's been raised.
Right, I just want that to answer Councilman Mayhew's question. I just wanted to bring it up, have it remedied, have it brought back to committee next time prior to actual award. I have no issue with us
Yeah, we
moving
could have it
forward
back
tonight.
to committee in a week just for assurances. Yeah. Councilor Mayhew.
I'd like to move to amend the motion to add the words
contingent
contingent upon verification that
DD&D.
that is a valid bidder.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, as stated by Councilor Mayhew. Any discussion on that motion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Back to the original motion, Councilor Shepherd.
So I have a question about bonds. You said that we had to, the deadline had to do with bonds. Can you tell me what you mean by bonds?
Right, so there's two items usually that inform how long we have as a city to consider their bid to us valid. One is the secure date for the bond, and then the other is a specification in, I believe it's basically the bid announcement or it might be in the contract that basically says this amount will be valid until such date. If we don't approve it by that date, they then, thank you, they then can basically say, we want more money, or basically ask for more money, and you begin to enter into negotiations, or you just do another bid, and then usually the prices go up. So we have a limited amount of time to secure that price, essentially.
Nicole, this question just occurs to me. I'm just kind of flying off the cuff here, but if it was determined that this mid-level bidder was not a qualified bidder, the council couldn't default to the lowest bidder. You said you'd have to start the whole bid process, but given the timeline you just described, would that not be harmful?
Yes.
Okay, so there wouldn't be an option for the council, for example, to pass another motion or amendment to say if in fact this bidder is determined not to be qualified, they approve the lowest bidder, or an option. In other words, option B if option A doesn't, in order to meet that timeline.
Maybe Ann can help me on this question. Short of having a formal protest filed with the city clerk's office for the bid awarding process, and short of any irregularities with their bid, if they meet the criteria, what we said that they need to meet to award the contract, should we not award the contract, we may be taking some additional risk because this contractor did his or her homework and submitted proper documents. I think that the amendment is very appropriate to the motion. We'll do our additional background check before the mayor signs it, but I strongly urge the council to go on and proceed with this thing.
So, the mayor is asking a hypothetical, strictly hypothetical, that if we have a contract and the selected vendor works out to be unqualified by state qualification to do the job.
And maybe only a 5% chance that would happen.
Yeah, this is totally hypothetical, separate from this particular instance, okay? If that occurs, do we have the option to say that that then is not a responsive bid, and to go back to the bid list and look at the next lowest responsive bidder and award that versus going through a whole bid process over again? As long as the bids are still valid and we're within the window of time, I see no reason why we couldn't go award to the next responsive and reasonably priced bidder.
Answer is yes,
Yes.
Councilmember Holloway. And I think that the process typically that I'm familiar with, and again, please correct me, if we find out this bidder is not qualified, then we have to come back to council with a motion to reject all bids. Then we go back again to solicit the bids. But as Nicole said, we contacted the Municipal Research Services Center.
Hang on, because you said yes and then you said no. And you're not my wife.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you.
I think Bob was nodding with me.
Council has the option to look at the next low
Councilmember
responsible
Holloway.
bidder. I think that's exactly right. Council has to consider the option. We'll have to bring back a set of options.
Okay.
There may be one or two or maybe even three options you'd have to consider at that point.
Right, because the next one's 300,000 higher.
Yeah, I think it's, I would strongly encourage
Cover
council to obviously vote on the motion that's in front of you.
Right.
In addition, that Municipal Research Services Center does the qualification checks before they put on their roster, as Nicole stated that. But we'll check one more time.
There's no way we're going to do a rebid process in a week and a half, though, so,
Yeah, no.
to even do a special council meeting. So, Councilmember Summerall?
With the amendment, we're protected, so I
We're good to go.
suggest we move on.
All right, if there's no further discussion or debate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
I can't find it.
All right, does the Public Works Committee feel a need to take up more time tonight with an additional report?
Is that a hint?
Any other report for Public Parks and Public Works Committee?
No. Sorry.
All right, Community Development Committee, we got to move back up to the consent agenda and pick up Agenda Bill 19-110, approval for the organizational chart for the Finance Department to include I'm sorry, which, wrong one. We're in Community Development Committee, right?
I'm on the sound.
Agenda Bill 19103, Contract for Services Agreement between the City of Snoqualmie and the Mountain Sound Greenway Trust.
The city received a $19,500 Economic Development Partnership Grant from the Port of Seattle toward the Snoqualmie Valley-wide marketing effort known as Savor Snoqualmie Valley. The grant provides that Mountains to Sound is the project partner with the city. The agreement with MTS provides services to the city for marketing efforts and establishes project responsibilities for each party. The total amount includes $13,000 in grant funds from the port, $6,500 from the city in matching funds, and also $1,000 in-kind contributions from the city. The in-kind contributions are from city staff time. Move to approve the contract for services agreement between the City of Snoqualmie and the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the Agenda Bill 19103 as stated by Councilmember Mayhew. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? Seeing no one move forward, Councilmember Shepherd, you had a question on this one.
Well, we've had a resident business operator is concerned about the Savor Snoqualmie Valley, how some businesses are not equally represented in what their marketing process is. And I'm just wondering if there is a bias as far as competition, and what are the laws as far as if we have some businesses that are represented or some that are featured and others are not. Is there any consequence for the city as far as an imbalance as far as representation?
Councilmember Mayhew.
So we took this exact question up in committee and received clarification from staff that in last year's similar pass-through grant, the Savor Snoqualmie initiative did run a best of the valley type, I guess the word is competition, and ended up naming certain businesses as best of the valley. And so obviously businesses that were not named, were concerned about that. In this year's grant, they will not be doing any marketing that in any way distinguishes some businesses from others. So, for example, if you're a barber, although I don't know why we need those, but if you're a barber, all barbers would be equally mentioned from Snoqualmie and so forth. So that's been fully addressed in this year's grant and will not happen.
So we actually verified what their marketing material will represent as far as businesses in Snoqualmie?
Well, the staff's assured us that they've discussed this with Savor Snoqualmie and that they will be following through to make sure there's that no businesses are favored over others.
So 100% of all the businesses will be listed in Savor Snoqualmie?
That's my understanding.
Mark, if you could help out here. I think this is Nicole's thing.
This is in regard, Mark Hoffman, Community Development Director. I believe this is 2 years ago. This is in regard to one pamphlet, which was one portion of 1 year. The prior representative of Savor was trying to do a good thing, but what she did was she got cross sections of best of participating businesses. What she didn't do is have the expectation that people would view it as a contest or a ranking. And so that was communicated. That pamphlet still exists. That effort was then, it has not been perpetuated, and as Councilmember Mayhew said, is not part of this item tonight.
And it wasn't on the website?
Yeah, that pamphlet exists, and so all those materials are there from 2 years ago.
I think it's something printed, Mark. What's a pamphlet?
It's a PDF of a pamphlet that was done 2 years ago.
And
so on the website.
PDF was on the website?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so Jennifer McCune's attempt was let's do something good to get those names out there. We know 3 barbers. We know 3 of these, 3 of those. And so we're going to promote this out there. I think there's 3 or more. But she and thought she was doing a good thing, but didn't see the optics of using the words best of. So the intent was not to be selective or omit businesses, or by putting the pamphlet out there saying anyone that's on here is not good or best of, and that has not been perpetuated.
Councilmember Hallway, Councilmember Jeans.
But this is Mark Zapier. There are no constraints, terms, and conditions that we ratify the list of vendors, nor that we need to ratify the process under which they select the individual businesses on these publications.
We are aware of it now, so that optics we would not want to repeat. So if they were going to use something like that, we would want input and have it be a structured style of contest or ranking or input. But that wasn't the intent, so it wasn't done. If in some future SAVER effort or anything related to city merchants goes into that issue, we would take note and make sure that that doesn't happen again. But we can't go back 2 years and make that pamphlet never exists.
Piece, but that was kind of a true-false legal question, and it was an essay answer. If we want to have some authority over the published list of businesses or the process under which those businesses are selected, there should be some terms and agreements from us to Mountain to Sound Greenway specifying that. Otherwise, it's, to Peggy's point, we have in essence given them a paragraph statement of work and said, go do this and here's money to go do it, and we'll have conversations on it, but there's no requirement that they need to vet their selection with us.
No, but I don't think they're going to go down that road, and if they did, it would involve North Bend, Carnation, Duval too. It's not just us. So noted for all those cities that if that were to come up again.
Councilmember Ross?
Is there one
sorry,
person?
Councilmember Jeans, did you have a chance to go? Okay. Councilmember Ross.
Is there one person that's putting this information together, or is there a committee? So do we, like someone from Snoqualmie that would be on it?
There were 3 or 4 different areas or avenues that this group was exploring. Jennifer McCune was in charge of this particular one. She went with more of the chamber angle. So most of those that are listed on that pamphlet are members of the chamber. It wasn't meant to be exhaustive of what's all out there in the city of Snoqualmie. I can't undo that pamphlet. We won't perpetuate it. But I'll just leave it at that. She recognized, I can say, Jennifer McCune is no longer with Mountains to Sound. It was her program. She put the energy in there. She really intended to do something good, a little bit of oversight as far as implementation, but she is highly responsible for that website and that program even existing. And originally, her thought was Mountains to Sound is going to step forward, get some funding. Thank you for participating in the port grants. But at some point, Mountains to Sound is going to step back, and the participating partners are going to step forward and take it over. She's at Carnation Farms now. So her replacement hopefully will bring that energy, and then that experience will be shared with her.
Mark, it's my understanding that any business, if they are proactive about it and reach out to SAVER Snoqualmie or Mountain Sound Greenway, can make sure that, particularly if they're providing the content, can get themselves on that website. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And not only that, but events. And so if you have an event and you want to register it on the calendar there, you just need to make contact. There's no favoritism.
So due to the limited staff resources that supports that site, it really, some of that responsibility is on the businesses to step up and provide the content.
And not to speak for her, but I can say the impression from the emails after she and I discussed it 2 years ago was that she was surprised. She understood it. She saw the optics, and we moved forward. It's, in my opinion, been explained 8 to 10 times now. So I'm hoping that puts that to rest, but the pamphlet still is on the website.
Councilmember Jeans.
I would like to remind council that this is a nice partnership between the Port of Seattle, who originated this idea in the beginning, who brings in the Mountains to Sound Greenway. These are people in the big city west of here, and we're trying to promote tourism in the valley. And we're going to get to this tourism plan soon in the Community Development Committee. And this is a great partnership at an economical price, and just, it sounds like there are commitments, and there's motivation on the part of the Port of Seattle, there's motivation on the part of the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust to make this right. And this will be better for the valley, for our tourism.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Okay, so I guess I'm hearing that the best of is still on the website, that pamphlet. And I don't see any urgency for us to approve this until that's corrected, if we can get that taken off the website.
Any further comments or discussion, council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, motion is carried. Moving on to, let's see, any other report for Community Development Committee?
No further report.
All right, moving on to Finance Administration Committee. Again, moving back up to the consent agenda, Agenda Bill 19110, approval of the organizational chart for the Finance Department to include a financial services manager.
The Finance Director has reassessed the needs of the Finance Department and in reviewing the Clark-Nuber report determined the need to modify the organizational chart to include a financial services manager. Any difference in the amount budgeted for wages will be absorbed by the vacant receptionist position. Move to approve the organizational chart for the Finance Department to include a financial services manager.
Second.
Motion is second to approve Agenda Bill 19110 as stated by Councilmember Mayhew. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? Seeing no one move forward, Councilmember Mayhew.
So for fellow council members, I'll just let you know the what they're doing here is in looking at the tasks and responsibilities of the finance staff, they're identifying things such as internal controls and other procedures that need to be done by someone with a higher level of authority than the current org structure allows them to accomplish. So this is moving a position that is currently a staff position to a management position to take on more of those management type responsibilities. In terms of budget, that does come with a little bit higher pay than, and so their plan is to promote someone from within, so that would mean a step up in pay. The receptionist position is currently vacant and they don't have any immediate plans to fill it, so they're able to cover the increase in wages out of that money, so it has no net impact on appropriations or the budget. It's merely enabling them to give tasks to someone in the finance department who needs to have a higher position in the org chart, a management position, in order to carry out those tasks. And that's why they're asking us to do this, and that's why the F&A committee recommended that we approve this.
Councilmember Shepherd.
So we're approving this without knowing what the cost is that right?
No. We've got a projected salary level for this position. And that was discussed at the F&A meeting, I believe.
It was.
You have a financial impact.
And again, for this biennial, there is no financial impact whatsoever because we have not filled the receptionist position to this date that was approved. So we're well within our personnel services budget and
Can
finance
you say what
department.
that delta is, Robert, or off the top of your head, or approximately? In other words, there's an increase in elevating this person to a management position, there's an increase in salary, but I suspect it's not nearly as high as an entire assistant salary, so there's still a remaining surplus, if anything.
I mean, we have to look at the level and everything to get you an exact detail. We still have to analyze that.
10,000, 40,000?
It's about, based on the analysis Deborah was showing me, Deborah Vigil, the Administrative Services Director, is also overseeing HR. we're looking at slotting it at roughly about $10,000 per year more than what it currently is.
Of an increase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how much was budgeted for what was the position?
Receptionist?
The
Yeah,
receptionist.
fully burdened, probably at least 40,000 with benefits per year.
Okay, so there's a 30,000 delta of
40,000,
a savings that still is being realized. That would be part of the ending fund balance at the end of the year.
In the biennial budget, yes.
So if I were to go back to this document, if we approve it, it's not clear that they're taking an existing position and modifying it to another position when I read this summary. And there's no dollar associated with what you're proposing. And I would expect it to become part of the salary and benefits document. That would have to be updated. This is a full FTE, correct?
It would be part of the next time. It would not have to be updated right now during the biennium, because again, we're within the biennial budget appropriation. But we would, obviously, it would be part of the listing going forward in the next biennial budget.
Okay, so this is an FTE position that you're talking about, correct?
We're not changing FTE. There's no gain in FTE in this position.
It's an increase in an existing FTE position, increased
Right.
cost.
Okay.
But there's no
And it's
change in the number.
And it's not exercising the hiring of another appropriated and funded FTE position. With
So I'm really not against this happening. I'm just against how it's documented. I don't think that it's clear what we're approving as far as cost, and it's going from one classification to another. I'd like to see that be more clearly defined in this document.
Mayor, if I could again clarify, and maybe it requires some additional council discussion, but the general fund that was appropriated or approved by council gives the authority to the mayor to work within that. Where all we're asking for is for council to approve this change in a position. We're not adding any new positions. We're staying within the appropriated budget amount. I think it's the important thing is that council does not have to agree or approve any additional dollars. It's all within the appropriated budget. The mayor has authority to exercise and execute.
Councilor James.
Rob, can you comment on the sort of what the change is? I mean, what's the nature of the kinds of things that this person will be doing on a daily basis in the future that they're not able to do now?
Sure. So, Councilmember Jean, so when I came in, we made some organizational adjustments internally when I started, and I came to council, I believe, with one adjustment. It's over a year ago now, just a couple months after I started to change Jerry Knutsen's position from financial analyst to a senior accountant, because it was very clear to me that his job duties had nothing really to do with the financial analyst position description. So right sizing it, and also Jerry's qualifications. He is a licensed CPA. He's been in local government now for, I believe, over 25 years. So he was not working in that job description. So I wanted to right size that position. As I've gone another year and observed what's needed in the department, we did hire an accountant last year, a new accountant position, and that position pretty much indirectly reports under Jerry. So we're trying to make it correctly where it reports under Jerry. And the same thing with payroll. He gives a lot of guidance to the payroll, but technically it's not organizationally, that position is not under him, our clerk that does payroll. So I wanted to make sure that he has the supervisory abilities and duties over those two positions, but also that he does not have that conflict when you get into a represented position versus a non-represented position, because he's dealing with confidential data, confidential information on a management level. So we want to make sure that when you're talking about correct lines of communication, correct internal controls, want to make sure that's there. And also, as we go forward, there's going to be more financial reporting requirements, more demands needed. And so I really wanted to highlight and elevate the need for a professional financial services manager in the city to deal with, again, because what Jerry does, again, was above and beyond the job descriptions that we had before. You're talking about debt reporting, you're talking about treasury management, you're talking about all the financial reporting, internal controls. We're going to be doing fixed asset booking in the next year, fixed asset management in the city. That's going to fall under the purview of this position. So we have a lot, and we want to recognize what he's doing now, so he's not working out of scope anymore, but also recognize the ability level of that position and the needs of the city.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sunwell.
So we're the, sort of the board of directors of the city.
Correct.
I can't think of of a corporation that would have the board of directors talking about a manager level position. At some point, we have to let you guys do your job. There's a $0, said right there, budget, $0. It's impacted this. I would just suggest we move on and let you guys do your job.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
No.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Okay, so one of the things that I'd like to have this specify is what position is being eliminated, because I don't know what that job title is.
No, it's the senior accountant position is what we're talking about.
So we're going to be removing a senior accountant.
No.
No.
I'm sorry, I thought that the person who was going to fill.
Sorry, Robert, created confusion. He meant to say the receptionist position is what's being eliminated. The money saved from that, a portion of those monies is being allocated to the senior accountant position.
But we're not adding a new position. We're taking somebody who's in a non-management position and moving them to management. So the non-management position, what was that title?
Senior accountant. And so next year, when we do the FTE list and we present it as part of the biennial budget, for next year, you'll see this position replacing that position. So when we go back to council next year for the biennial budget appropriation, you're going to see this position, over the previous positions, the financial services manager position. You won't see the senior accountant position going forward.
Yeah, so it's not really clear in this document that that's what's happening.
All right.
Councilmember Sunwell.
Move to call the question.
Second.
Question has been called. All those in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. That's more than a supermajority, so the question's been called. Back to the original motion with no further debate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, motion is carried. With that, is there any other further report for Finance Administration Committee?
I believe we need to take up the warrants.
Oh, thank you. Yes, sir. I thought I've got all of the stuff moving around, but this last one. All right. So, Jim, you want to go ahead and move, or Councilmember Mayhew? Move to approve minutes?
Yeah, I'm just.
Minutes for the August 12, 2019 roundtable and regular city council meeting.
No, just.
No, I think we did the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Move to approve warrants as
It's
submitted
getting
in the
late.
agenda.
I'll let you do it.
Am I doing it?
Go ahead.
Move to approve warrants as submitted in the agenda.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve warrants as stated in the agenda packet. Any discussion, is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? Any discussion, council? Councilmember Shepherd.
So I was noticing in the, happening to look at Sammamish's agenda for the, I think it was the January 5th meeting for 2016, and they had a lot of detail about all of their warrants, and we just don't have a lot of transparency as far as.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
We're debating the warrants identified in this, not the process of warrants and what other cities do in their processes of warrants. We're talking about paying employees and paying people who've done service for the city on these particular items.
I'm going to sustain that and ask that the members keep their comments directed to these specific warrants for approval tonight, and also ask that they refrain from making inflammatory comments. Does the council member have any questions pertaining to these specific warrants tonight?
Nope.
All right. Is there any further discussion, council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion. All right. Motion is carried. Is there anything I missed? There was a lot of moving parts tonight, so please let me know if there's anything else I missed.
Joan, you got notes on all the agenda bills?
All right. With that, I don't believe there's any other business to come before the council and entertain. Well, actually, let's just ask real quick, any other questions from the staff and just reports, any other announcements?
Mayor, it's a very sensitive issue, but for those who did know or remember Dave Dorothy, he was with Quadron. He was a general manager from the inception of Snoqualmie Ridge well over 20 years ago. He died on August 1st. He was struggling with cancer for several decades, actually, but more recently in the last year. And I had kept up some contact with him, but was not able to continue. He had some very severe issues that wouldn't allow him to speak. We could email communicate, but I want to make sure everybody understands that he was a very well-respected man here in the community, did a great job. He felt, in fact, one of the very things, the only thing he mentioned about his entire job, if you will, everything was focused yesterday at the memorial service that the mayor and former city attorney Pat Anderson and I were able to attend. He focused, everything was on his family, but he had one thing, and one thing only about his job and his profession, that was Snoqualmie Ridge. And I thought that was very poignant and very profound that he would actually say that, because that was his career, if you will. And he loved this place. He thought he put his heart and soul into it. I want to make sure everybody knows that. I know most of the folks and staff now don't remember him or wouldn't remember him because they all came after that, but he retired about 7 years ago, I believe. And so folks like Nancy Tucker, Pat Anderson, Councilor Jeans, Councilmember Holloway, I certainly remember him, Mayor Larson does as well, and Joan. Because there are very few people left here on the staff, but I just want to make sure that was said about him publicly because I think he deserved that.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Yeah, no, Dave was definitely a giant of the in the history of Snoqualmie Ridge. There's few things that occurred without Dave's thumbprint being on that. And even after he retired and left Quadrant, I don't know if most folks were aware, he served on the ROA board as the developers representative up until this last year. So he's just done extraordinary service for the community. He's a person of great integrity, and it was great to have someone like him on the other side of the table to negotiate with. So, any other announcements or topics? All right, with that, if there's no further business coming for the council, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned.